Welcome to English Literature for Everyone. This is part 2 of the explanation of Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. In case you have missed part 1, link is in the bio. Watch that before you start this video. As always, like and share this video. Do comment down your doubts. And now we'll start with chapter 3. In chapter 3, Absurd Creation, there are three subparts: philosophy and friction, Kirilov, and ephemeral creation. In this particular chapter, Camus discusses what absurd art is and how an artist could create that, right? Absurd creation. So basically, he talks about how a creator could create an absurd art. So, first of all, he discusses the ironic relationship between creativity and absurdity. Okay, creativity is recreating the reality we live in, the world we live in. We represent it in art. Okay, and absurdity basically says that our life, this life that we live, has no meaning. Okay, so basically, we have to create an art that depicts our life and should also not have any meaning attached to it. This is what an absurd art is. Now, Camus raises a very valid question whether we could actually create an art without any meaning. Is it possible for us? Is it possible for any artist to create an absurd art? So, in order to create an absurd art, Camus basically lays down certain rules that an absurd art or an absurd artist should follow. Okay, we will go through this one by one. So, at first, the art should have clear and reasonable ideas, right? It should not have vague or abstract concept. It should be as clear as a day. It should be very clear on what it wants to represent. Secondly, the reason behind the art should not be revealed. People should not look at art about its value or think about its meaning. They should look at art and enjoy it at the moment. Okay. Third is, uh, whenever needed, artists should be ready to abandon the intelligence or the reasoning behind the art. Basically, as I've stated earlier, an absurd art should have no meaning. Okay, so if it has no meaning, artists should be ready to discard the reasoning whenever possible. It should not hold on to its meaning because then it would defeat the purpose. Now, the next point is that the art should not be more than what we see. So basically, if I see a painting of a woman decorating a vase, okay, I should only see the painting as an activity. Like this particular painting is describing an activity. I should not see it as a symbolism of life or some other thing. This is what Camus is saying, that art cannot signify anything more than itself. It should just signify whatever it is showing. Lastly, the work should not replace reality. It should not be substitute for reality, right? It should not avoid the reality of death. Your words should not communicate any otherworldly or any foreign concepts through which we can think of eternal life or some other thing that may not exist. Because again, as I've said, when we talk about absurd life, we talk about the things that we can see, we can touch. Anything other than that is human concept. And very first rule states that the idea should be lucid and reasonable, right? It should not be in concept. Now, Camus considers some art form to be superior in sense that they can easily become an absurd art, right? He says that music is full of sensation. As I've stated, passion is an important ingredient when it comes to absurd reasoning. And painting is reflection of reality. You see what you see in your daily life and you paint on that particular scene. So it is very easy for artists, basically painters and musicians, to compose an absurd art. Now, when it comes to literature, right, he says that novels are better than poetry because they are filled with intelligence and reasoning. They do not have unnecessary symbolism or imagery to distract us from reality. Also, when it comes to novel, philosophical novels are better than to become an absurd art. Okay, since they showcase life without the appeal, they talk about the important questions. Now, in order to talk about philosophical novels, he takes example of a 19th century Russian novelist, Dostoevsky. Okay, so there's a book written by Dostoevsky, The Possessed, and Camus uses the main character as an example of absurd art. So the main character, Kirilov, basically he goes through an existential crisis where he thinks that his existence would only make sense if God exists. However, he does not feel that God exists. Okay, he does not believe that God is real. So, due to this particular dilemma, he ultimately takes his own life. Now, Camus says that while this particular character made a free will choice, okay, he realized that his life had no meaning and he decided to make a free choice. He did not live his life with full passion, right? He did the revolt phase, he did the freedom phase, but he did not do the passion phase of absurd reasoning, if you remember in my previous video. Okay, so this particular character is not exactly an absurd man. So, in a sense, Dostoevsky's novel could be said that they are not exactly an absurd novel, but they are more of an existential novel. All the characters that Dostoevsky writes essentially go through the stage of despair after they realize that their life has no meaning or God does not exist, right? They do not live their life to fullest after denying the existence of God. And that is a very necessary concept when it comes to absurd man, which is why Camus considers Dostoevsky's novels as existentialist novels. Okay, he also points out that Dostoevsky was a religious man, he believed in God. So, like, views are still visible to us in his novels, even though he showcases the problem of an absurd life. He does not embraces that life, right? He portrays those lives in a very negative light. So, this is a criticism that Camus has of Dostoevsky. Now, in his essay, Camus has appreciated Moby Dick as an absurd work, but he does not engages with why it is a good absurd work, right? So, coming on to absurd art, Camus says that it should be aesthetic, yet it should not have any meaning. Basically, it should give pleasure when you're looking at it. It should be enjoyable, but it should not have any deeper meaning than what we see, right? Basically, if I'm looking at a piece of art, while I'm looking at it, I'm happy about it or I'm sad about it. Either could be the way, right? But when I go home, I should not think about that piece of art. I should not think about the deeper meanings that, okay, another important thing when it comes to absurd art is that it should add diverse experiences in our life, but it should not have any meaning, right? Again, Camus repeats himself that an absurd artist should reject divinity, religion, abstract concept, and only talk about lived human experiences. It should reject divine fable and produce only relatable content to humanity, right? Now we come to the fourth chapter, final chapter, and it is just one chapter that is named The Myth of Sisyphus. So basically, in this particular chapter, Camus recounts the myth of Sisyphus, which I have stated in my previous video. And Sisyphus was condemned by gods to roll a boulder across a steep hill. And whenever he would reach at the top, the boulder would slide back down. And he was stuck doing this activity for eternity. Okay. Now, Camus says that this particular story has very multiple variation, right? Like in one particular story, Sisyphus had chained the god of death, Pluto, which is why he got this particular punishment. Right. In another story, Sisyphus stole certain secrets from God, which is why he got this punishment. Basically, in all of these stories, in all of these myths, um, they try to justify why Sisyphus was punished. So, while Sisyphus can be seen as a helpless character by some, Camus sees him in a positive light. He says that I presume that Sisyphus is an happy man, and the reason why he states that is because Sisyphus knows that he cannot escape his punishment, right? He knows he's condemned for eternity. So he has no future or no past to worry about. He's stuck doing that activity, and there's no one who is going to save him. So there is only one way for him to continue doing that punishment is to truly live in the moment. He has learned to live his life happily. This is what Camus says. And this is how he concludes his essay by stating that, like Sisyphus, this particular character, we should also, first of all, accept that the life has no inherent meaning, it has no value, and then learn to live in present. So with this we come to the end. I hope you like this explanation. If you want me to cover any essay or novel or drama or poetry, do let me know in the comment section. Like and subscribe for more literary content. Thank you.